Not exactly sure how we're going to get rid of this stench, but there is just a bizarre odor hovering over the spot from which we speak today. After we gave you that stinker of a game yesterday, Syracuse getting 5.5 points on the road against Pittsburgh. Pittsburgh 6-0. And everybody keeps saying the same thing about almost every team that's in the top five, even. Well, they really haven't played anybody. You could say that about almost every team except for maybe a couple. Texas has played Alabama and Georgia has subsequently also played those two teams. So, those guys have played somebody. Pittsburgh undefeated at 6-0. I don't know that they've beaten anybody of any notable distinction. Sure, they've had some competitive games against good teams. Syracuse 5-1. We talked about the sensitivity about the forward pass when I was attending Syracuse University, late 60s, early 70s. We were hippies. We were smoking weed. We didn't give that much of a fuck about the football team because they had already lost Larry Zonka. That legacy was over, and they never were going to throw the forward pass. So what do we have? We have Kyle McCord. He's throwing a rock all over the place, 300-plus yards a game. We're figuring that's going to be a good thing for us. Easily be within 5.5 of Pittsburgh. Maybe they're not that good. Could not have been any more dead wrong. My God, what a stink bomb went off right away. First quarter, 3 picks by McCord, 2 of which go back for 6, the dreaded pick 6. You're hopelessly out of the game before they even get out of the first quarter, and by halftime, you're annihilated 31-0. So we apologize, people, for doing that to you. Now, if you were betting the game, you're going to try and get even tonight. We're going to try and help you out with the professor who's going to join us here in just a sec. Basketball fans, it's that time of the year again. A lot of people crying in South Florida because the Heat got off to that lousy start and Laws couldn't cover his spread. Game went under. And on top of that, Jimmy Butler, I don't know if anybody had him firing up 3 points in that game, but it was a rough start. So a lot of people crying already. From the opening tip-off to buzzer beaters, you can bet it all, though, on BetOnline. BetOnline has the latest odds, the biggest promotions, and live in-game betting on all of your favorite teams. This season, every game matters. BetOnline has every stat, matchup, breakdown, and live odds to bet on during the game. And it's not just the NBA. BetOnline has odds on everything from football, the MLB playoffs, the NHL, to political props as well. Head to the website today. Get in on all the action with America's most trusted site for online wagering. That would be BetOnline. Speaking of online wagering, there's been an acquisition of our regional cable system here in the state of Florida. It was owned at one time by Sports Channel and a network called Sunshine Network. Then was sold eventually to Bally Sports, and just recently was purchased by FanDuel. Tuned in the Heat game the other night, was unaware of this change, and I'm watching FanDuel TV, and I'm thinking, where does it stop? As we welcome the professor into the show. Are they going to buy CBS, Professor? We're going to be watching CBS Morning News.
I'm actually wondering down here.
Props?
I'm actually wondering down here because Bally Sports obviously got themselves in a situation where they owed a bunch of money to Comcast, and Comcast pulled them from all their subscribers. So if you had Comcast/Xfinity, you didn't get the Marlins games last year, and I'm curious if FanDuel will resolve this. So it, the Bally Sports /FanDuel / whatever the hell it's going to be called will be back on Comcast, because I, for one, was very relieved not to have Marlins baseball anymore.
We love this season.
That we got into this summer months, and you didn't have the option to turn on Marlins games. So I, for one, kind of hope FanDuel just lets that debt hang, and we don't have to. We get another summer of not having to watch Marlins games.
We mentioned it a few times here, and we had a program before the baseball season got underway, kind of previewing the season, and we had gone ahead and passed along the notion and the truth that we felt we had inside information that was very solid, that the Marlins were going to just absolutely be beyond the scope of your wildest imagination awful this year.
And they were.
And they were. And so, I mean, that changes your whole perspective, because you're thrilled to get Marlins baseball, and you want them to get crushed like a grape by the third inning every night.
The under for the season?
Yes.
Okay.
And I couldn't have been any easier. We were online to cash in July. And it was just a pleasure to watch, especially the early season there, because yeah, you didn't want to miss a single inning of Marlins baseball as they were getting
That makes
bludgeoned.
sense. Yes.
All right, this is an interesting one. I had my buddy on the show that we did yesterday, License to Steal on the Bleacher Brothers Network,
Yes.
and Dylan Rossi. I didn't realize that he would be okay with being identified as being associated with this ticket. I guess, it's not the biggest payoff in sports gambling history. Certainly, we know of people that cash millions of dollars worth of tickets
Mattress
on
Mac.
Super Bowl bets. Yeah, Mattress Mac being one. He wins either way, which is a good way to play. So, but he either sells the furniture or he cashes the
Right.
bet, which a stroke of marketing genius, no doubt about it. But yeah, the ticket he has is worth like 90 grand for 100. All right, he needs the Dodgers to win
$100.
it. $100 bet, 4-team championship parlay. He's got
Okay.
UConn home already in the NCAA. He's got the Celtics home in the NBA. He's got the Panthers home, which was the biggest price at 8.5 to 1. And now he needs the Dodgers to win the World Series to cash 90K.
Go Yankees.
Well, I mean, and it's
You
weird because
you bet on the Celtics and UConn. I hope you go down in fucking flames.
that would be you personally. But in this case, you might be thinking about, didn't I do that guy a fucking favor one time? I called in a bet for him to that book I was
No,
using
I
in
mean,
Costa Rica.
I got to be honest. As close as I view this series, I'd be looking to either hedge that or,
I
the
think he is
cash
going to
out
hedge it.
button or whatever it
Uh,
was. That would definitely be a hedge for me. Just because I think this World Series is like a total coin toss.
I thought that we were going to have to use some kind of silhouette of him, though, and a voice shredder, because should gambling records and any kind of gambling information that can actually be documented, should that be used more discreetly than medical records about a person? I mean,
Not really.
no, you don't think so?
I mean, I assume this is through like a Vegas book or like a major sports book. I assume.
He made the bet at the Hard Rock here in Florida.
Okay, so it's subject to tax records already. So,
Yeah.
like, might as well get the pub. Might as well brag a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, it's a great ticket, and if the Dodgers do win the World Series, he has a subsequent ticket, a $50 five-bagger parlay that is tied to the Ravens winning the Super Bowl, and the payoff on that is $480,000 for 50. So that's
So
the
wait,
stuff of which legends
he
are
needs
made.
he needs those four and the Ravens for 500.
Yes, for
I mean,
480,000.
honestly, that's a couple of those are kind of chalky, but if you can get those kind of
They're all
odds,
logical, every one of
yeah.
them. It's not like you're going, oh my God, you fucking used the Rockies to win the World Series. They were
It
going
wasn't
to win
again. It
40
was
games.
UConn, the Celtics.
UConn was like 5.5 to 1 to win the NCAA tournament.
Okay,
I mean, a
that
lot of
one
stuff
makes
can
sense.
happen.
Yeah, sure.
We know that. I mean, there's no cinch.
UConn, the Celtics.
Celtics, Panthers to win the Stanley
The
Cup,
Panthers. Yeah.
and then
Okay. I mean,
and that was his biggest price.
congrats to him. I don't really approve of the Celtics part of that. I'm not a huge UConn fan either, but who won? Who won? Good luck. I think you're probably going to need some pretty good fortune on the Ravens part of that because Kansas City, seems like an unstoppable monster at this point. But other than that, best of luck. I would probably be. I shouldn't say probably. I would 1,000% hedge that. Like,
Yeah, he said that he was thinking about you're getting a price with the Yankees in the World Series. So
I assume it's not much of a price, but still, if you get a price,
I've seen it plus 120, plus 110,
so you can
somewhere in that range.
guarantee yourself basically the full half. Go
So if you put 40,000 on the Yankees,
Yeah,
you're going to
I
make
would-
45,000.
Yeah, I would definitely be looking to hedge that. That's me.
I'd already be online, my friend, trying to cash these tickets. All right, yes, but I didn't know if he wanted to be identified. And the truth was, you're right. He may as well expand his legend because he does send it in, and this was
And as we have learned,
a great bet.
it does not take much to become a gambling celebrity these
No.
days. So it helps if you're a hot chick, but other than that,
I'm not even sure that, like we've talked about many times. When have you ever gone to any kind of gambling establishment? I mean, maybe you're at the craps table in a high-end casino somewhere in Monte Carlo. Yeah, of course, babes everywhere. But like it was a Bond film. But when you go into the Jamaica OTB in Queens, when do you ever see anything that's even close to representative of being a babe. The only babes that you
Honestly,
would see in there, the
I
standard
don't
is
want to be
prison.
sexist about it. When have you seen just an attractive human being? Period. Like,
Yeah, well, that's true too.
it's not like it's a home of great male pulchritude
No,
either. It's
you're
not
not
like
seeing any GQ
not.
cover
Yeah, you don't
guys.
see a lot of Fabio or George Clooney.
And he's screaming, "Come on with that fucking six,
Yeah,
Abatello!"
touting the winner of a harness race. I need 20 to bet on this. It's a lock to bet on some 1-9 shot at Yonkers. Like, it is not a place of where Ford Modeling
A
is
high-end
doing a lot of
establishment. Yeah,
scouting.
exactly. You're not seeing Anna Wintour, they're
Right,
thinking, "I'll find my next male model right
right.
here." Yeah, that's
Yeah,
true. Okay,
on
yeah,
both
you're
sides,
right to clarify that.
on both sides of the gender equation, I think that maxim holds true.
All right, the professor with us here, and we're going to get into some college football picks. But we did come back a little bit last week, which was good. You got your man Mike Gundy home, tough beat on the money line with the Oklahoma State game. That was a week ago
Yeah, it
Friday.
was.
And then you were all over Georgia, and with sound logic, and that proved out to be true. Even with like a really weird call reversal on a pass interference call,
That was a bizarre. That was one of the more bizarre calls. I think.
I
I
don't know
don't
that
think
I
it's
got
set
any explanation. Did
I
you?
don't think it set a good precedent that you throw shit at the referees and they all of a sudden reverse the call. I feel like you're asking fans to start throwing shit at referees
You're thinking they
when they're.
tack on another 15? No.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, that was a bizarre call. Really didn't impact the game at all. It was pretty much Georgia's all the way. I mean, from the mid first quarter on, there wasn't really much doubt about that one. Unfortunately, the other way was true too, as Indiana just skull crushed us
Oh yes.
with Nebraska. So went 2-1 on this show on the week, but after 0-3 the week before, that's a damn nice turnaround.
Always good. It's you get in a slump at the racetrack, and this was old school, but you just throw $2 to show on like Secretariat, just to cash a ticket, just to break and snap the negativity that was going on in your life at the time before you broke down and snapped altogether. All right, we're going to get into some college football, but we were having a discussion on another show, and this is probably the most interesting. You brought this up, the most interesting aspect of the endorsements that are going on in the Trump versus Harris campaign, and that was that a presidential election could maybe be decided by the size of Arnold Palmer's schlong, where the Trumpster compares him, maybe influenced by seeing Ken Norton in Mandingo, and says that by PGA standards, or any standard for that matter, this
Yes.
guy was John fucking Holmes.
Okay, two things on that.
Yeah.
Number one, the fact that like he followed the line about how other pros were very impressed about how Arnold Palmer was all man after coming out of the shower with, and I needed to talk about this because we have a lot of very sophisticated ladies here in the
There you
audience.
go.
And let's remember, he was giving this speech in Pennsylvania.
Yes.
So apparently somebody in the Trump campaign thinks that the key to the female swing vote in Pennsylvania is reminding them about Arnold Palmer's dick. Like, I
Perfect
don't know,
political
campaign
strategy.
And like, people have assumed that this was a moment.
Who's calling the shots? Aaron Boone? I mean, who's calling the shots for
Second
this
thing.
guy?
First of all, people assume he got off script and like that this was the weave, as he calls it, where he has moments of ad libbing. I personally hope that this was planned. I hope that like an hour before the speech, he went to his speechwriter and goes, "You got to give me 90 seconds on Arnold Palmer's dick. We got to talk about the size of Arnold Palmer's crotch." And I hope that if you could find the play of the teleprompter, there's like a segment there that says,
It's probably right
about
there.
Arnold
Yeah.
Palmer's dick. And then
Maybe he just goes by code, and he just has a picture of a big schlong.
And then shout out the ladies about Arnold Palmer's dick.
Yeah.
Like, okay. Like how we have gotten to the places we have gotten in politics at this point is just so far beyond my ability to comprehend or analyze that. I mean, I thought we had peaked 8 years ago when he was like, "No, my hands are very large." And so are other parts. I thought
as he's looking at like a minuscule Marco Rubio, as if he was a midget wrestler. Yeah.
Yes, I thought we had stopped the conversation about the size of our dick at that point. But 8 years later, no, and I mean, I'm not trying to be, mean to, to our senior citizen set or
Yeah.
anything. But like Arnold Palmer's whole appeal was being the old man, and this was like in the mid 1980s when he was doing Penzo.
Yes.
I don't think anybody has thought about Arnold Palmer's dick in like 50 years. Like,
Unless you're thinking of something that shrivels up easily and maybe isn't comprised of much at
like
this stage.
not once when the famous commercials were Arnold Palmer's driving around on his old tractor,
Yes.
that he kept running with Pennzoil. Did I think, the problem with that is that tractor seat would bother Arnold Palmer's giant dick. Like, I don't think Arnold Palmer's dick has been part of the
No.
conversation in sports in a long, long time.
You never heard Ken Venturi say, "Hey, listen,
Right,
this putt would be simple, except for the fact that giant fucking schlong is in his way."
right. Which side does he wear it on? Because it could throw off his putting. I
Imagine this is
mean,
going to cost him Ryder Cup points, possibly. Yeah, you're right. I mean, it was one of the weirder things you could possibly bring into any kind of campaign, but that's the way of the
I
world
mean,
right now.
weirder. Like,
Yeah.
how do you get weirder? Then I'm just gonna. It wasn't like it was 2 seconds. Like, this was a good 90-second riff. Like,
Yes.
I don't know how you top that, honestly.
I don't ever remember anybody talking about it too. I've been in many golf
Right?
clubhouses there, covering golf and various sites, and I never heard anybody mention Arnie
Yeah,
in that capacity. Let's
not
put it
once
that way.
during your antagonistic interviews with Colin Montgomery did Arnold
Yes.
Palmer's dick come up. Maybe that was the secret you should have been asking about all along,
Yeah.
instead of it looking like Mrs. Doubtfire and
He would have thought I
choking.
was John Sandusky doing the
He would
interview.
have
What are you
been like,
talking about? Yeah.
Colin, let's take a moment to talk about Arnold Palmer's crotch.
All right, let's talk some college football. We want to make some money, Professor. Now that you've snapped that streak, that was brief, and you have to be able to survive the tough times. There's no doubt about it, people. You have to be able to kind of cover up and maybe put the gloves in front of your face once in a while, and then boldly move into the future. So that's what we're going to do today. The professor coming back last week with a couple of nice scores, 2-1 on his show, and Boise State and UNLV. That one tips off tonight, does it not?
It does. And Boise State's laying 3.5 on the road here. Against the UNLV squad, I'm not particularly impressed with. We scored against them with Syracuse a couple weeks ago. We're getting 3.5 in that situation. Now we're laying 3.5, but we're going to go ahead and lay the points here. Again, if you've seen Boise State at all this year, you know about Ashton Genty, who is one of, if not the most impressive player in the country. Comes into this game with 1,248 rushing yards in 6 ball games. You can do a very simple math. It's about 205 yards a game. And I expect him to absolutely keep that pace up against UNLV. And the UNLV offense, I don't, again, Haji Williams' passing numbers have actually been better than Sluka's, but if you watch them, I think that offense has lost a little bit of its rhythm since they did the quarterback replacement a couple of weeks ago. And that would make some sense because if you watch UNLV, they like to come out in about 30 different formations a game. They have plenty of plays with multiple guys going in motion. They seem to have slowed with that, simplifying the playbook again. And so, again, even with better passing numbers, it kind of looks like a subtraction, even though it should be addition. Combine that with the fact that I think Genty will just once again run wild. And I think it's going to be a little bit of a shootout, but Boise State wins this one comfortably. Also, Boise State just a little bit more balanced on offense. They can throw the football. Genty gets all the highlights, but the passing game's been pretty effective thus far this year. I expect this to look. I'm trying to remember who it was that sort of to me mirrored UNLV. I expect this to look a little bit like the Washington State game, which is another offense that comes in. They like to use a lot of weird formations. They like to motion a lot, and the quarterback runs. So very similar, philosophically to me, to UNLV, which Boise State did a good job in. And again, don't think UNLV is getting any stops, any legitimate stops against this Boise State offense. I think Genty's just too much combination of size and speed for them. Again, well, can UNLV get a stop late when they're, down a couple scores with 2 minutes left? Probably. But I don't think they're getting any legitimate stops in this football game. Boise State minus 3.5.
All right, that gets us off the mark here on a Friday night, hopefully on the positive side. And then looking at Saturday, you've done a little, I mean, this is appropriate considering we were talking
Doing a little
sort of
flea
on the
flicker.
precipice of getting into some politics. But you're doing a reversal here on
Yep.
Indiana
Doing a
after
little ping pong
last
here in
week's
Indiana.
bludgeoning.
Again, look, looked at Indiana last week. We did not think their offensive line would hold up against that Nebraska front. And it did. Not only did it hold up, it absolutely thrived and dominated the game. One factor we may have not looked closely enough was the fact that Nebraska had to fly across the country for a noontime kickoff, but generally that's a West Coast thing, not a Central Time Zone thing. This week you get the exact same situation, but with a legitimate West Coast team. Washington has to fly across the country to not only just a normal football environment with a noon kickoff, but with game day there for Indiana, probably a raucous crowd. We all, of course, know whether it's in the NFL, West Coast teams flying over for 1 o'clock starts, or in college, West Coast teams flying over for noon starts. Historically, that is a very bad spot for the visiting team. Once again, laying less than a touchdown here, 6.5. Exact same line as Nebraska, which makes me think people are equating Nebraska and Washington. And I think Nebraska is a better football team than Washington. Certainly much more offensive consistency than Washington has demonstrated. So no reason not to take Indiana here. What should be a very geared up spot for the Hoosiers. Again, game day going to Indiana would not have had that on the bingo card for 2024 any other year. I think it'll be an emotional spot for the Hoosiers. Think they'll come out flying and get another very comfortable win to set up that big showdown with Ohio State in a couple weeks.
Just struck me with game day showing up there. If FanDuel eventually buys like a major television network, and you were alluding to this earlier today also, is it possible that that network then features 24 hours of Pat McAfee
Yes, I don't think it's possible. I think it's likely.
and AJ Hawk?
Yes, I think AJ
Earns
Hawk
millions of dollars for just staring into a
has his
camera? How great
own
is that?
primetime show where he just stares into the camera for an hour. Yes, exactly. Just does that creepy
That
look with the wide set eyes, like the hammerhead shark.
has to make no contribution whatsoever.
Right.
Just sit there and stare into the camera. It's a great job. It
And,
definitely is.
and then he's got that thing where he keeps his head exactly symmetrical, so you can't tell
Yes,
if he's got the ponytail slash man bun working today or not, or if he's letting it hang. Just no. I mean,
thing of
the
beauty.
man knows his business. Nobody stares directly into the camera like AJ and says nothing like AJ Hawk does.
Never says a word on the show. All right, you're looking at Illinois and Oregon. You've had success with Illinois this year, and I believe you feel they're being underestimated in this spot.
I mean, again, the exact spot we've had with Illinois is with them getting points. And we're once again looking at it. We cashed on them with Nebraska, cashed on them last week with Illinois and Michigan. Unfortunately, it was one I did not put on the show. Should have chosen that instead of Nebraska. It was a mistake on my part. But getting 22 from Oregon, I don't understand this line. I guess between the voting, the fact that Dylan Gabriel is now elevating in the Heisman, he's back up to third. It's still kind of a long shot behind Ward and Genty, but he's getting attention since really for the first time since the season. I think people are kind of ignoring that Oregon still playing close games. Laying 3 touchdowns in this spot seems very odd to me, but you have to look at it in the pattern. Illinois seems to be one of the most underestimated teams in the country. They got 5 or 6 from Kansas at home and won the game straight up. They got, I believe it was 5 or 6 from Nebraska on the road and won straight up. They were getting 5 at home last week from Michigan and won the game straight up. I don't think they're winning this game. I don't think they're going out to Oregon and getting a win, but I think they're going to keep it comfortably under 3 touchdowns here. I wouldn't be surprised if this is like a 1-score game going into the fourth quarter. Key things with Illinois here, they're balanced offensively. They've got some run, they've got some pass, and they are very good at turnover margin. They do not turn the ball over much offensively, and they are good at turning other teams over. That's how they beat Kansas a few weeks back. And to some degree, it's how they beat Nebraska at Nebraska with a key interception in the end zone there. So I don't look for Illinois to win this game, but I do look for them to keep it very respectable. And I don't understand. To me, I would make this line like a touchdown south of where it was. Probably just over 14 is where I'd make this number. You're getting a full touchdown worth of value here, and it actually went up yesterday. So confused by the action on this one, but I just don't see it the same way as the public does apparently.
Chalk players love to unload on number one, regardless of the point spread and the opposition. Plus 22, Illinois.
That's true with the pole elevation.
Yeah.
That may play a role in what we're looking at here.
Everybody looks for the winner last out at the track. Illinois plus 22 over Oregon, or to cover against Oregon. And then you're looking at big rivalry game, Michigan State.
Yep, Michigan laying 5 here. Another line I don't really understand. There seems to be a continued pattern. I think it's like 4 weeks in a row Michigan has been favored against what I would call better football teams, and they've lost a bunch of them. Uh, again, I'm not sure Michigan State is better than Michigan, but they're equal. And by the numbers, you can make the case that, the Michigan strength, their defense, Michigan State's better. I mean, they got better numbers overall defense, passing defense by a lot. They give up less points per game. Again, don't see the case for Michigan here. They can't have no passing game whatsoever. Michigan State's passing game actually improving. And again, we have seen Jonathan Smith over and over again as an underdog back during his Oregon State games. Now continuing it at Michigan with Michigan State, the win last week straight up against Iowa. I look at actually very similar to the Iowa game last week, where Iowa supposedly was back. They have an offense, blah blah blah. Went in against a better defense against Michigan State. Didn't have an offense, and Michigan State made more plays in the passing game. I'm not going to be surprised if Sparty wins this game straight up. I wouldn't even be surprised if, like last week, they want to buy your score or more. I think, again, Childs, if you saw him at Oregon State, now as a transfer, is he perfect? No, he makes a lot of bad decisions, but he is capable of creating a lot of big plays in the passing game, and I think that'll be the difference in this one. Give me Sparty plus the 5.
All right, very good. Astute analysis here. Boise State minus 3.5. UNLV, that one's tonight. Indiana, minus 6.5 over Washington. Getting 22 with Illinois, taking them in the Oregon matchup. And Michigan State getting 5 points from Michigan. Looks like a positive play. Professor, always a pleasure, my friend. Good luck with all of your wagers, and thanks so much for being with us here on Bury Your Bookie.
Okay, and look for our new show, Arnold Palmer's Johnson.
All right, yeah, we'll find a network. Maybe FanDuel will buy that show too. All right, that's the professor, ladies and gentlemen. It is weird. I mean, we only used to talk about. I loved Arnie Palmer. I was old enough, or I am old enough to remember the guy when he was playing. When Big Jack came along, a great rivalry. He was always a gentleman. I don't ever remember any references to the size of his pecker, but I mean, this is a new era, and you wouldn't have figured that it would surface in a political arena. But nonetheless, it has. So nothing is surprising. A couple of weeks away from Election Day, and I would imagine some of you guys are betting political props. I haven't gotten into it yet because I think there's a lot on the line just in the election itself. But we're not going to worry about that. We want to cash some tickets at the World Series starting out tonight. And as I mentioned, we were talking about my friend's ticket, 90,000. If the Dodgers win the World Series, might hedge off and put himself in a situation where it's going to be 45,000 or nothing. But really would be intriguing to see him stay alive with the Dodgers and maybe be in line to pick up $500,000. As we said, the stuff of which legends are made. My friend Dylan Rossi, good luck in the World Series. There are those that think the Yankees will prevail. If you look at the two lineups, have to give the edge overall, top to bottom, 1 through 9, in hitting to the Dodgers. In spite of the fact that you do have the distinct possibility that Aaron Judge might wake up here. And if he does, you're still formidable with the New York Yankees. Soto remain hot and has been brilliant so far in the postseason. Stanton has awakened from the dead. What was coming on a little bit once he got back into the lineup. Traditional slow starter. You can probably discount all of his stats from April until June. And when he gets in one of these zones, pretty effective. We've seen it. Witnessed it here when he was a member of the now Miami Marlins. And, wow, I mean, well, once he got past May, the guy can be dynamite. So we'll see if that's enough to offset what seems to be a little bit more, especially with this guy Edman hitting fourth for the Dodgers out of the shortstop spot. You wouldn't have expected that to transpire into big power numbers and a high average and a lot of RBIs, but that's the way it's been. So there's a little serendipity there. And don't forget about the Fernando factor. That's the one that really is of the greatest intrigue to me because, as you know, we like to dabble in matters of the occult. And I'm thinking Fernando checking out just before the series might be something that just has an influence. I don't know where it's going to come from exactly, but it's going to be powerful from the gods of gambling and possibly get the Dodgers home with what looks to be just an inferior pitching staff for the standard of winning a world championship when you have two guys and you're not sure about either of them that are your 1-2 starters and then nothing else after that. All right, good luck, everybody. Have a great weekend. It's going to be a very exciting weekend. NBA action expanding. NHL is starting to get into swing here where we can make some definitive judgments. We'll get you some steam on that. And another great weekend of football on tap as well. We will see you Monday. And until then, let's hope that everybody is out there with a shot to bury your bookie.